Hey, today's video is going to be an introduction to Wishlist Member. It is a membership plugin, but it's not just for people who want to run memberships. It's also for people who want to run courses. Maybe you're a coach. Basically, if you have something where you need to protect information rather than rely upon the honor system, this is for you. So we're going to take a quick look. And the reason we're taking a look at this way is because there is a lifetime offer. So in other words, LTD, lifetime deal, however you want to refer to it, that's available. I don't know when it's going to go, but as I'm recording this, it's towards the end of August, and I imagine it's only going to be up for a few days. If you're interested in Wishlist Member after this deal is over, I don't know if they'll ever run it again, but I'm going to do some more videos on Wishlist Member and show you some potential of what you can do with this. But today, let's just go ahead and take a look at an overview. All right, so we're on the Wishlist Member page with a lifetime offer. They're celebrating the fact that they have 100,000 installations, and this offer is only available through their affiliates. They're not promoting it otherwise. So I am an affiliate. If you do decide to buy something, I'll get a little something for myself. But mostly what you get out of a lifetime deal is the fact that you don't have to pay for support year after year. So if you were to buy a single site license of Wishlist Member, that would be about $150 a year, and that would repeat year after year. If you go ahead and buy it on the lifetime deal, there's going to be a different pricing. So you can see here, this is what you get. So a one-site license at $429, basically within 3 years, less than 3 years, it will have paid itself off. So if it was $150 or $149, which I round up to $150, so 2 years would be $300, and then it would have been higher up on the third year. So this is just a little bit less than if you're running for 3 years. I've been running Wishlist Member for a little over a year now. I'm very pleased with it. I'm very happy. This is one of the oldest membership plugins around. And you can take a look here and see what you get for your money. There is a very good community of folks who support this. Then there are a few things that I like about Wishlist Member. One is that they don't try to be everything to everyone. Some other plugins, in which some of those other plugins are much more expensive, try to do everything. They try to be a payment processor. They try to, obviously protect your material. They try to be a page builder. They try to do so many things that I think they lose their way. The problem I have with something that tries to be everything is it doesn't do everything well, or it doesn't do everything the way you want. So for example, one of the things I like about Wishlist Member, they don't try to be a payment processor. Instead, they integrate with other payment processors. So I use Thrivecart, which in turn I've integrated with Stripe and PayPal. You can integrate directly with Stripe and PayPal. With Thrivecart, I can do an upsell or a downsell or a bump offer, or typically some of these things that just do cart integration from Stripe or PayPal don't let you do those additional selling things, and those offers can make you a lot of money. So it's all about trying to find out what your customer wants and saying, hey, since you're interested in this, maybe you'd like that. Maybe you'd like this little add-on to what you just bought. And that's why I like using a service like Thrivecart. Some of the other membership plugins don't do that for you. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. So you've seen the offer here. Also, I wanted to tell you, if you're interested in this offer, I'll have this in the description below, but the URL is going to be suburbiapress.com/wishlist-ltd. So I'll put that on the screen, and I'll also make sure it's in the description below. And that way you can get the lifetime deal. Once you've paid, you're in. You don't have to pay anything else. You get the same support as anybody who's doing the regular payment. I know because I bought on a lifetime deal a while back, and I'm getting great support. All right, so this is our dashboard on my demo site, and you can see, quickly at a glance, you can see your stats. You can see how many users are in WordPress. I don't have any members inside of a membership. And if I did, you might see some activity going on. And I've only got a basic level membership here. So we can skip on down here to setup. And I want to show you some of the things that I really like. So the first thing you're going to see are your membership levels. Let's go ahead and click the plus. So we're going to add another level. I'm just going to call this Pro. And there's a little bit of a wizard that just kind of walks you through. And it's nice that you can do this. So you can start here with your access. And what options do you have? Is this going to be ongoing? In other words, once they pay, they'll always have access. Is it going to be for a fixed term? Perhaps you have a cohort of people for a class, and it's only going to happen for a specific time. It might happen from January to May, and then once that's done, everything's over with. Or maybe it starts on a specific date. So we're going to leave it at ongoing. This section down here, I typically leave off unless I am on a site that is completely dedicated only to the membership. And what this means is that if I tick any of these little boxes down here, all posts, all pages, comments, and categories, they'll have access to everything on the site, and it'll be locked out to people who are not part of the membership. Since I run my blog and my courses on the same site in a number of cases, I don't want to tick this. So unless you're going to dedicate an entire site to a membership or course, I would leave these off. And you probably notice these little question marks. If you hover over those, it'll give you a quick description of what these various things mean. So if you were curious about ongoing and fixed term and specific date, that's what they mean. They'll give you a little bit right there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come over here to registrations. And who do you want to allow? Is this available for people who are already on your system or just new people? Is it only for new members, or is it only for existing members? In other words, you're giving them another membership level for the people who are already signed up. And that may be handy in case you're coming across people that you want them to take a certain path. They've got to be a membership of this and then earn their way into a membership for something else. You may not want somebody to start at a given membership level. So right now, I'm just going to leave that as the default. And then you have a number of checkboxes here. And this one says, enable simple registration URL. So it'll create one for you. You can come over here and edit it as far as what it's going to be. And you may want to change this thing that's automatically created for you. Registration is something that you can handle in a number of places. It's good that Wishlist Member will handle registration for you. In my case, I use Thrivecart to handle registration because people are putting in a payment at the same time. So I don't even go with this simple registration. I'll instead have Thrivecart do it. And we'll get to integrations later on, and I'll show you that when somebody signs up on Thrivecart, it will talk to Wishlist Member and say, here's somebody that gets a new membership registration. And then Wishlist Member will go ahead and take all that information. So your registration does not have to come from Wishlist Member. It can come from something else. If you're running Buddy Boss, maybe you register people there. And then you could use something like Uncanny Automator that'll trigger Wishlist Member or the direct integration. And there's just a number of ways you can do registration. So do you want to enable a registration form? Do you want to do a custom registration form? And there's a number of choices here. Do you want to prevent members from filling or editing pre-filled information? If there's a payment integration system, you can see here, and it's going to have their first name, last name. Basically, that may get pre-filled as well. And you can go ahead and just make sure that that is consistent with the billing information. So uncancel on re-registration. So in other words, maybe someone's part of your membership for a while, they get canceled, they re-register, you can go ahead and allow them to come back in. So if a user has canceled status and they register, they can go back and uncancel that. So there's a number of other questions down here. Now, one thing I like is this automatically add non-wishlist member user registration to this level. That is if somebody registers inside of WordPress and maybe you want them to be part of a membership. So if they register with the WordPress integration, then they can automatically become part of a level. I wouldn't want them for this pro level, but for the basic level that I had, perhaps I would want them to be able to sign into WordPress and then automatically get turned on to this membership. All right, so let's take a look at our requirements. Do you want to make sure an administrator approves a registration, or are you going to let it happen automatically? I also notice that when you get some of these, you might have things over here like edit notifications or configure. So if you click on that, this is the message they get sent. You can see there are some shortcodes here. You can customize this. So that way, you can change the subject. You can change what it says. They have basic stock information in here. But if these are your customers or these are your potential leads, you probably want to dress this up a little bit and give them some better information. And then as far as these little short codes over here, you can see where it says insert merge codes. So that way you can say, do you want somebody's first name, last name? And there's quite a list over here of what you may want to insert. So, and then you can see the notifications. There's the notice to the admin. There's for the user waiting approval. And there's what the user gets when they're approved. So as I said, this is kind of very basic and very dry. I would definitely dress that up. So we're going to turn that off. And we're going to close this. And I'll turn that off. The same thing happens here. Is like if you want a shopping cart integration, you may want the administrator to approve that rather than anybody else. I always make sure that my members confirm their email, so they are who they say they are, and I require them to see the terms and conditions on my page. That way, there's no excuse that I didn't know. It's like, well, you had to approve that you read them. No, we know a lot of people don't read them, but this is on them now if they are required to read the terms and conditions. reCAPTCHA, if you're having problems with bots, that could be helpful. All right, so let's go over here to conditional settings. What role is somebody going to have? Are they going to be a subscriber, a contributor? And you can make other roles inside of your WordPress. They may be a customer, is probably the role that I would put inside. And then are there going to be registration expiration? So you can say what happens if for an expired level, resets the registration date when a member registered for an expired level. And that's a possibility that you may create a level and then think in the future, no, I want to do something else. What are you going to do when they expire out of that last level? And then there's also active levels over here. Redirects. This is what I think is going to be very important. So for example, when somebody is on one of my sites where I have courses, when they log in, I don't want them looking at a back-end dashboard like this. I don't want them looking at the blog page. I want them to go to a dashboard that I've set up for them. So after they register, I may have a welcome and onboarding page that I would put in here. Once they've done that, when they log in, I want to go to their dashboard. So I'll put that in here, and then you can configure where that dashboard is. So here's what you can do. You can choose a URL. You can choose a page inside of your WordPress, or you can give them a message. I would probably just go ahead and redirect them to a page that's on my site, and that would be their dashboard. Same thing is after they log out, where do you want them to go? So you've got a choice again. Do you want to send them to a page? I would send them to a page that says basically you've logged out, but it has a login page in case they want to come back in. But this custom or after registration redirect, I think that's an excellent opportunity for onboarding to send them to a page they're probably not going to see again, but it welcomes them. It tells them a little bit of what they've just registered for and what to expect inside of your membership. Email notifications are going to be much like we saw before. So you've got different things over here, like did they complete the registration? Are they new members? Are they incomplete? Did somebody cancel? And what you do is come over here to edit notifications, and you can see there's a notification for the user and also one for the admin. Again, these are not really all that interesting for somebody, but it gives you an idea of what to share. So you want to rewrite these notifications in your voice, in your style. Let them know, if they're a new member registration, let them know, here's the URL for your dashboard. Here's what you can expect inside and anything else that's important for your folks. Now let's click over here to actions. We don't have one set, so let's go ahead and add an action. And this is a little bit of an automation. So when this happens, if somebody's added to this level, then I may want to cancel them for another level. I may want to remove them from another level. Maybe they've moved over. Paper post is something we haven't discussed yet, but I'll talk about that. So you can add them to a paper post. And you've just got a few different if this, then that kind of actions here. All right, so let's come down to paper post. This is something you don't see in any of the other membership plugins that I've looked at. The idea is you're charging people for access to a post or a page that has something valuable in it. In other words, it's locked down and protected. People can't get to it unless they pay for it. Think about times that maybe you would have written an ebook or had a short video course or something. If you can put all that on one page, you can sell that page. They pay for it and they have access to it, but other people don't. So it's not going to show up in search. And it's just kind of a quick and easy way to create something of value, maybe something inexpensive that people are going to buy, they get access to it, and then they're customers rather than just cold leads. So that's an idea that I really like as far as paper posts. You can set something up where it costs money to get to a page or a post, and then they've got something of value for it. Let's come down here to integrations. This is one of the things that I think Wishlist Member does better than anybody else. You can see that I've already got Stripe listed here, and there are a number of payment providers. So for example, you've got PayPal Checkout, PayPal Payflow, PayPal Payments Pro, and you can choose the one that's right for you. And if you've got Samcart, that's fine. I use ThriveCart, so I can set up an integration with ThriveCart, and all I've got to do is clip this over here, and then you can see that it wants to see what is the key that I'm going to use. I'm not using this, so this key doesn't really matter to me. And it's just an easy way to set up with a payment provider. The same thing happens with different email and other services, and we'll go over those in a moment. There's also a generic one over here. So sometimes you may work with a webhook or something that you don't have a direct API integration. There's always usually a generic way to get through. If we come over to email providers, I use Fluent CRM. That's my favorite email provider, and I've got a ton of videos on the channel about Fluent CRM. But there are a lot of other popular ones. I used to use Aweber. I used to use ConvertKit. Some people really liked Drip, GetResponse. You notice there's the generic one again, so if you need to work with a webhook. And over here, Infusionsoft by Keep. And you've got MailChimp, MadMimi, Moosin. There are a lot of popular email providers here, and then the generic one if yours isn't on here. So chances are you're probably going to be able to find your email provider available here. Other services, I have LearnDash installed. I don't have BuddyBoss on this demo site, but I have it on some of my other sites, so I integrate with BuddyBoss. And that way, if there are triggers or events that are happening on LearnDash or BuddyBoss that I need to integrate with my email service, I can do that. If you're using Elementor, that's here. Webhooks, I've mentioned before. And of course, Zapier is a middleware. It connects thousands of different applications together. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of Zapier. I think it is incredibly overpriced for what service it provides. But since it does provide a service well beyond others like Pabbly or some other things, that's the big dog in town. So if I want to integrate some things, I can always go through Zapier. And they have different plans at different price points, and you can select what's right for you. Some of my sites I integrate with Slack, so that way not only do I get an email when somebody does something or buys a product, I can get a Slack notification, and usually I prefer that rather than getting the email. If you have an affiliate, there is iDev Affiliate here. Presto Player is a wonderful little video player I've gotten recently, and I've been using that, so I'll do an integration with that as well. And you can see there are different learning management systems like Tutor LMS and Lifter LMS, eLearn Commerce. So there are webinar providers, different page builders, like I said, Elementor, and then here's Divi. So there's a lot of ways you can connect. And like I said, if you don't see them directly integrated here, that's where you have Zapier, you have Pabbly, and you have Integrately. Those are all systems that connect applications with other applications. Integrately and Pabbly are less expensive than Zapier, but they may not have as many options as Zapier does. So I would look at all of them to make sure that you find the one that does the integrations you want and also has the triggers and actions that you want. It's not just a matter of price, but does it actually accomplish what you want to do? This is really the key, I think, of what I like about Wishlist Member. It integrates with so many things. You can build your platform. So for example, in my case, I built a platform with BuddyBoss, with Fluent CRM, with LearnDash, with ThriveCart, and this talks to all of them. And it doesn't try to do what they do and probably do better than if Wishlist Member were doing these things itself. So let's come down here to members. And you can see I've got a list of members. None of these are added to a level. So if I want to, I can go ahead and click on this first one here and select a level. So I'm going to put this one on basic. And let's say today's the date. And then you've got a choice here. Use level notification settings. So when you create your level, you can determine what the notification settings are, or you can override and say whether you want to send or do not send an email notification. And do you want to require confirmation or do not require? Typically at the membership level, I want to set these to where I want to send an email notification, because if you've just joined up something and you don't get an email, you kind of wonder, did I really join up? And I also want to request confirmation, because that means somebody's not playing games and signing someone else up. I want the email to go to the email address that was signed up, and I want that person to confirm before they get access to anything, because that way I know that the person who's joining my site is the person who requested it. So I think that's very important. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add to Level. And then now you can see that this BB Ariana, whether that's BB is Buddy Boss, is on the basic level. And you can add more things. You can go in over here and you can click on this to edit their data. And I don't have Buddy Boss on here right now, but that's how I got them. I imported some demo users from Buddy Boss. You can see that they're subscribed to your email broadcast. You get your first and last name, their username. You can do a quick password reset if you need to. You can change them out. You can log them out if they're on and you decided that, okay, you don't belong here. You can just go ahead and knock them right out. And then, of course, you've got all your information as far as your contact, what levels they are, and their history of working with those levels. If they've purchased a pay-per-post, whether it's a post or a page, and then you can see their history there. Let's come over to Advanced. So you can see the URL feed for their member profile, their email address and registration and all that other stuff. So you can see if they've logged in. You can enable IP address tracking, whether it's enabled or disabled. Be careful with that, because for some GDPR folks, IP address is personally identifiable information, and you may not want that. Another thing I like here is login limit. Now you can change this per user, but there's also a global one. Typically, I leave this at about 7. I do that because people may log in with multiple devices. I've got a desktop, a laptop, I have an iPad and an iPhone. So there's 4 devices right there. Someone may have a work computer and a home computer, and they may access from a number of places, but I just found 7 is a good number. If you find someone who's logging in from multiple IP addresses beyond that, chances are they've shared their login or their login's been compromised. And this is a way to say, no, you don't get to share this with everybody who's logging in. And other fields, you can add other fields. We haven't done any of that here, so I'm going to close this. And of course, you can delete somebody if you just decide they don't belong here anymore. So you've got good membership. Now, when we've got our administration, you can see on the menu over here, there are email broadcasts. I prefer to do this through Fluent CRM rather than through Wishlist Member. And if you're integrating with your own email service provider, that's what I would recommend. Is like you want these people on your email list and you can do a broadcast. However, there may be circumstances where people have unsubscribed from your email list and you want to make sure everybody gets a notice about something important inside of your membership. This is going to take care of that for you. So we can come over here and look at the settings, and you've got to fill in your canned spam information. And if there's unsubscribed notices, the site admin gets to know about this. So that's great. Let's come down here to backup. So basically, if you've got data, you want to be able to back it up. So you want to back up your settings. Do you want to back up your members? Do you want to back up your content? You can do all of them. But what I would do is probably do them separately, because when I want to come back and import, I'm going to want to import them separately. Inevitably, there are times when you migrate from one site to another. So you can export your membership levels and you can export your global settings. And likewise, you can also import when you get to the other side. So this is a nice way to be able to migrate. Let's say you're moving your membership. Maybe you had it as a subdomain, and then you want to migrate it into your primary domain, so your blog and everything is on the same site as your membership site, or vice versa. Maybe you're just tired of having all these people on your site and you just want to move them off to a portal someplace. You can import and export, folks. You can also reset everything back to the default, which is something that obviously you've got a nice little warning over here. It's going to reset everything. And on a site like this, where it's just my demo site, there are times I want to do that. And then you've got a big red button that lets you know if you reset it, it's red, not green. It's kind of warning you right there. This is one of my favorite things in any plugin or tool, version rollback. Sometimes an update comes out and maybe there's a problem with the update, or maybe there's a conflict with another plugin or tool. And that's most likely what happens. I haven't had any problems with my Wishlist Member, but I have had some other plugins that came out and caused a conflict with some plugins. I don't think I've really had any problems with any of them conflicting with Wishlist Member. I've been fortunate with that, but I have had plugins that conflict with each other, which is why I wish every plugin were required to have a version rollback. So it depends on when did you install it and how many versions have you installed. And that's where you've got your versions over here if you want to read back or roll back. Content protection is an interesting little concept. So let's click on this one. It says, hello world. That's the default message that I think everybody gets. And you can see what's protected and what isn't. So if you want to change this from unprotected to protected or inherited from another site, you can do that. If you want to make it a paper post, you can make it free. You can make it paid. Free means I think that you're going to get a registration in order to see the information rather than having to pay a content. But that's a good lead magnet itself. I prefer, if you're going to have a paper post, I prefer getting some money. You get a different level of audience that wants something for free than those who are willing to open up their pocketbook or wallet and pay for something. So it's just a quick way to see which things are protected and also who are the users that have access. Let's go down to content control. So you can enable a scheduler, an archiver, and a manager. So let's go ahead and click on this, and then we'll open up the settings. So let's say that there's something scheduled and it says you do not currently have access to the scheduled content. You can redirect them to another page, which is probably going to have a nicer message than just displaying this on the screen. Or you can send them to another URL. It might be something that's off-site, which is why you've got a choice between a page that is specifically in WordPress or a URL, which is anywhere else. So that's kind of a nice little option to have on your content control. And same thing, you may archive things once in a while, and you may want to let people know, says this archive content, you don't have access to it anymore. And you've also got the little visibility content down here. So you can hide non-accessible archive content in the page and post listing. So that way they don't even see it to get there. But if they did get to it somehow, maybe they had a bookmark on something and you've archived it, you can give them a message that, hey, this is archived. You don't have access to it anymore. Let's come down to our advanced options. And you notice we've got a number of things over here on the side. So we've got our global default, and you can see the global redirects. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. You can go through the protection. So for example, hide protected posts from public RSS feed. If you've got syndication going on your site, and most WordPress sites do, you don't want to share something that's supposed to be protected because people have paid for them. So you can click this, and that way it doesn't get added to the WordPress feed. Only show content for each membership level. So this basically means that if you're not a member, you don't get to see anything at all. In other words, you don't even know that it's there. And you can do this to automatically protect new content. Again, this is something I would only choose if the site were dedicated. I don't want to use this on a site where I've got a blog because I don't want to protect blog posts from people who are not members yet. That might be the thing that gets them interested enough to become a member. So you can see that we have a number of different global email defaults, and you can edit the notifications, which are much like the ones we've already seen. So if somebody's expiring, let's click on this. You can kind of let them know your membership is about to expire in so many days. And then you can also send one to yourself as the admin. So that way you've got a little bit of information here, and you can choose which membership level. So maybe in basic, they're going to expire. And that's not going to happen if you have ongoing in your membership. But if you put them into a time-based membership, maybe they need to renew for access annually or every quarter, whatever it may be, then these kind of messages let them know that, hey, you're due for, or you're about to expire. And depending on your terms, maybe you automatically renew them. You've got on a subscription, and this is a courtesy notice in case they want to cancel. Or maybe you're saying, hey, it's time to pony up again. It's just whatever you choose. This one I think is good. Members can update their user info. And why wouldn't you want to allow them to do that? Some people may change their name for some reason. Perhaps they've gotten married or divorced, and maybe they've had a change of address. Whatever the reasons are, people ought to be able to update their own user information. And then you can provide some of these little short codes in here to display text for content protected messages with reverse private tags. That's a nice one. And then also text to display when comments are protected. There's a possibility that maybe if you've got a post that's a paper post and you allow comments on there, Well, you don't want everybody else to see those comments too, only the ones that are going to be allowed. So I think that these global defaults are very handy. You can look at your logins and you can see a little bit of settings and styling. So if you want to turn on styling, then you can use some of these different templates that are available, and you can modify those a little bit. You can have a login form. You can change the fields and buttons and logo and so forth. You can change the background. If you're comfortable with CSS, you can change that as well too. So you've got a lot of options to kind of put your own brand on the site. For passwords, you may want to have a minimum password length. You may want to require strong passwords. Do you want to put hints out there? Hints are good for your customers. They're also great for people who want to get into your customers' information. So you can enable this, and let's say edit. And then this is an email that will send them and say, your hint is this. Basically, it's not going to show it up on the screen. It's going to send it to their email address, and that kind of prevents other people from guessing it. And if you get tired of seeing other people change their password and getting an admin notification, you can just turn this off. Everybody's changing their password. I don't want to know about it. Turn that off. And then you can enable passwords in administrator emails. That's kind of a security choice that you have to make. Typically, you don't want to have the user ID and the password in the same email. So privileges, you can decide which kind of user gets access to certain things and which user level gets access to member options in pages and posts. Caching is a very tricky subject with dynamic sites. And when you're using something like a membership site, a course, or maybe a coaching site, you don't want certain things to be cached, because that way the next time someone logs in, if it's cached, they're going to see the same thing they saw before, and it becomes a mess. You do not want to do any caching. So if you want to do caching, you might do something like WP Rocket, which I think is a very good cache, but also you're going to want to exclude some information. And you might be able to do that with a prefix, but also you can have this little URL that'll show you what the pros and cons and best practices are for caching. So do you want to show powered by Wishlist Member in the footer? You can do that. And that's if you have an affiliate ID that maybe you want to see if somebody else is interested, they make a sale, and you get credit for that or paid for it. And if you want to learn more about Wishlist affiliate program, it's right here. They've just changed their system, and they've got a guy who's been in there starting off, Francisco, really wonderful guy. He knows his WordPress stuff very well. And if you want to be an affiliate of Wishlist products, I think that it's a good program. And if you want to put this at the top, so I've got this little button checked. That's why Wishlist Member shows up over here rather than down below some of these other things. So I kind of want that right at the top. So you can set up your custom registration forms. You can have your registration settings to determine like what's going to time out, what kind of style do you want to have. And they've kept the legacy thing down here. I typically stay with theme styled. And then you can also enable short, incomplete registration links or redirect to the registration. The legacy is for older versions. Unless you were ever running an older version, I don't think that you're ever going to need the legacy stuff. I would just ignore it unless you've had previous versions of Wishlist Member. So we talked about RSS. That is basically the syndication. And this is where I disable RSS for non-authenticated feeds. Basically, I don't want any of the stuff that I'm protecting going out to an RSS feed. Now, if you want a cron job, that depends on where you're hosting. I'm hosting on a Cloudways virtual private server. So I've got cron jobs that I can build on there, and then I can set up what the details are over here. And they've got little commands you can just kind of copy and paste, and it'll create the cron job for you. If you don't have a server that allows you a cron job internally, there is an external service called cron-job.org, and that'll work very well for a lot of folks. So we're just kind of coming down to things. I don't want to go into too much. If you need, again, custom CSS, there's a place there. If you need an API, and this is for developers, who want to access Wishlist Member API. I've never had a need to use that. You can find system information. So if you're debugging problems, you can see what the active plugins are. You can see the users, which theme is on there. So for right now, It says author brainstorm force. I've got the Astra theme over here. And it's just good debugging information. And you can click this button and download all of this and share to somebody if you need support or if you need to review it for yourself. Legacy, I'm not going to worry about. And I know we didn't go into how to do a lot of things over here, but I really wanted to kind of give you a look at what Wishlist Member has inside of it and how you can get started. And it's very simple. They've got a getting started wizard. They can add a level and it will walk you through everything you need to do. This is, as I said, one of the oldest ones around, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the best membership things you can do. And remember, it's not necessarily just because you want to run a membership or your idea of a membership may be different. This is about protecting content. So if you're running a course, this protects your course from access by people who didn't pay for it. And I think that is the primary purpose. But the integrations that we talked about, that's really something it's almost like having a Zapier inside of your WordPress. So I've got something called Automator. This is an Uncanny Automator. And it'll do, different recipes. You can come down here and take a look at how you may want to take somebody who's if Fluent CRM, a user gets set to a status, let's say maybe they bounced, then I can come down here, add an action, select a tool, and let's say it's Wishlist Member. I may want to remove somebody. Now removing somebody is a pro level. So you can see it just opened up this. I've got the pro level, just not on my demo site. I've got it on 2 sites, but those are things that instead of using Automator, some of these things you can do inside of Wishlist Member simply because it integrates with so many different tools. I run mine without having to use Zapier for the most part. I'm not using Zapier. I haven't run into a circumstance yet where I need to use Zapier. Maybe someday it'll happen, maybe it won't. But the nice thing is it integrates with so many tools. You don't have to pay a lot of money to a third-party service like Zapier for most of what you want to do because it's working with the top dogs in each of their industries. But if you're working with something that maybe isn't as popular and you need to integrate it, usually the first thing people do is integrate with Zapier. So for example, I use Searchy, and it's one of my favorite tools for video hosting, for creating hubs and courses and so forth. They don't integrate directly with Wishlist Member, which shocks the hell out of me because the co-founder of Wishlist Member was also the co-founder or the founder of Searchy. So Stu McLaren with Searchy was the co-founder of Wishlist Member along with Tracy Childers. These guys know each other. They've worked together. They've done business together. Why in the world doesn't Searchy and Wishlist Member have a direct integration? I do not know. I wish they did. I've requested that from the Searchy folks, but so far they haven't done it. And it's something that shouldn't take that long to do. Presto Player is a relatively new video player. I'm thrilled that they have an integration here. But if I want to integrate a Wishlist Member with Searchy for some reason, at this point in time, I'm going to have to use Zapier. And that is just not something I want to do because it is an additional cost. So I would say get Wishlist Member first. It'll integrate with a lot of things. Get something like Uncanny Automator or Automator WP next to build those recipes. And when you get Wishlist Member, if it doesn't integrate with something that you want, write to both Wishlist Member and to that vendor and say, why aren't you guys integrating with each other? And if they do that, then you don't have to pay for Zapier. But Zapier is my last choice, but it's one that I know is coming for some things that I'm doing. So it's going to happen. But if you can get an integration with the product that you love and with Wishlist Member, you can do a whole lot of stuff without having to pay a monthly fee to somebody else. So like I said, that monthly fee is really what this video is about, because there is a lifetime offer for a limited time. I'm on August 25th when I'm recording this. I don't know how long it's going to last. If you want to get this and you see this relatively soon, go to suburbiapress.com/wishlist-ltd. And I've got a regular link, which is basically the same thing, suburbiapress.com/wishlist, if this deal is off, and then we'll get you hooked up there. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Are you looking at building courses? Are you looking at building a membership? Do you have questions about how to integrate Wishlist Member with your payment processor or which themes you're using? Let me know. As I said, I've been using this for a while. I'll be happy to help, and I will have more videos coming out on Wishlist Member. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. I hope this is helpful for you. Also, if you're looking forward to getting a membership plugin, I think this is the best one, and I think this is the best deal you're going to find. Within less than 3 years, it's going to pay itself off, and anytime you use it beyond that, it's free. You've already got all your support, and it does everything wonderful. So I definitely recommend this. If you like this video, please go ahead, click like. That lets the YouTube overlords know that I did something right, and they'll share it with more people. Please subscribe. It'll help us grow. And click the little bell notification icon if you want a reminder the next time I put out another video. Thank you so much. I'll see you again in the next video.